writing, and I haven't been waiting for a response. I've actually been waiting for validation, you know? I've been waiting for somebody to say, you know, you've got great writing capability, what you've got to offer is brilliant, you matter, your story matters, your journey matters, these other women's stories who were within this book, their stories matter.
So what I started to do, I started to just like buy and sell domain names when the internet was like literally you had to plug it into your wall. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It's so easy because you're chasing this dream and this vision that you have, and to feel as though you need to be working all hours of the day. And yes, there are some days where you need to push yourself that little bit harder, but you really need, if you haven't got your health and your well-being, you haven't got any business.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur Stories, where I am joined by phenomenal women from the world of business and entrepreneurship. If you haven't already done so, as usual, please make sure you click that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, please make sure that you press that follow button so that you're the first to know when we release a new interview. Today, I am joined by the phenomenal woman, Benedicta Egbeme, who is the founder of BeniRatio Finances and Woman on Purpose Women's Ministry. Benedicta, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So obviously you're a busy woman, you have two businesses. Tell us how your entrepreneurial journey started and which one came first. Was it BeniRatio Finances or Woman on Purpose?
So Woman on Purpose is the latest baby, the new addition to the family. BeniRatio Finances started organically a few years ago. So I've always been and enjoyed working with numbers, financial management. I've always just been good at it, you know, for myself. But then I started to have friends and family approach me to say, oh, could you help me do this? Could you help me do that? And also being a qualified accountant, people would always come up to me and say, you know, oh, I need to do my tax returns, or I need to do this, I need to do that. Can you help me with this? I need help with my money. And, you know, the demand kept on increasing. And I had a lot of people say to me, you know, that what you do is like it's not that easy. Like a lot of people struggle the way you do it easily. You know, it would be good if you could offer this more widely, because obviously at that time, it was just, if you knew me and you knew what I was about, then you would know and you would approach me. But, you know, they said, you know, I had a lot of encouragement from friends and family. And to be fair, I did have a lot to say in regards to financial management. And so I was kindly pushed, you know, by friends and family to go out and launch. And to be fair, it's been good since. I've, you know, spread the word about what I do, and I had a lot more people approach me and reach larger audiences, you know, and I had more customers and been able to help more people in a more organized way. And it's made me think about things more as a business in terms of, as opposed to just helping out family and friends. So that was how BeniRatio started, I think 2 years ago now, officially, but more, you know, a lot longer than that unofficially. And then Woman on Purpose as a ministry, that started officially again last year, but I think I had the message from God a year before that, but I kind of sat on it for a bit. I'm all about business. I'm all about trying to, you know, go and get what's yours and that kind of stuff. And so the ministry aspect was very different for me. And it wasn't something that I wanted to just jump into without thinking. I wanted to take my time and do it, you know, do it when I felt right. And so, yeah, last year I opened up to the world, opened up to a lot more people about it. And, you know, have been doing videos on YouTube under my YouTube channel, Benedicta_WOP for that, and have had a lot of comments, a lot of interest. And yeah, we're just taking it further this year.
Awesome. That sounds all very exciting. So give us a bit more of a breakdown of exactly what the offer is with BeniRatio Finances. Obviously, you've alluded to the fact that you support people with money, but what exactly is it that you're offering?
So BeniRatio Finances actually has two aspects. The main aspect that I probably push a bit more is the personal financial management. So these are services to help people with their budgeting on a monthly basis. If you don't have a plan, if you don't know how to kind of manage your income and your expenditure, the budgeting and planning package basically helps you to do that. So we'll go through, your numbers, and by the end of it, we'll have a session. By the end of it, you will end up with a plan that you can follow, a 12-month plan that you can follow for the year with your numbers based on your expenditure, your income. And so that's the main service. The second service is a debt attack service, and this looks specifically to help people who might have a number of different debt items that they are paying and balancing at the moment. Maybe they've got credit cards, loans, overdraft, etc. And again, they're not really sure, like, where do I begin? I know that I need to address this. I know that I need to get rid of this debt, but I just don't know how to do it. So they can approach BeniRatio Finances, and we will help them. Again, we will help them to, number one, have a budget, because you can't know how much to use to pay off your debt if you don't have a budget. And then we will also, in addition to that, give them a plan as well to help them pay off their debt, and they will see how much they need to pay each month, how long it will take, and basically how to hit the milestones that they want to achieve over time. That's the debt attack service. And then the last but not least, for the personal finance element, is actually the savings plan. So again, we all have these big milestones of life, a wedding coming up, maybe maternity leave coming up, or a big holiday, or whatever it is. A big purchasing of property is one of the main ones that people like to, plan for and need a bit of help and a bit of guidance. So again, we'll sit down, we'll go together with your numbers, and we will make an actionable plan for individuals on how to achieve those targets, achieve those milestones, the best way that they can shuffle their money around to hit the targets, basically. So that's on the personal finance advisory. The other aspect, which I don't push as much, and I probably should push more often, is actually the small business accounting element. So like I mentioned before, I am a qualified accountant, and so I do offer accounting services for self-employed people, for small businesses that are just starting up, that need that help, not really sure where to go. Do I register? Do I not register? How do I pay my taxes? How do I do my accounts? All of that kind of stuff. So we help on the journey from the financial aspect for new businesses as well.
So definitely something that many people that I know need, a service that
yes.
in demand, that needs to be in higher demand. I think there's a lot of people that underestimate how important it is to have somebody that they work with to help them manage their finances.
But
I'm going to stick a pin on that. Because I want to come back to the kind of financial element of the interview a little bit later.
Okay.
But you've said you're a qualified accountant, where did your interest in numbers stem from? Like, was there something in your childhood, in your family because I feel like accountancy is a very specific type of thing, and there's all these stereotypes of what accountants are.
I didn't say when I was younger, I want to be an accountant when I grow up. Definitely not. And actually, for a long time, whenever I heard about accountants, I just thought, why would they do that? Who does that? Like, it's so boring. You're just looking at numbers all day and blah, blah, blah. But the truth is, when I was younger, I had always been good with numbers. And I remember as far back as being 7 years old and being entered into a maths competition. And myself and two other students from my class in year 2, I can actually still remember this. We did this competition, and we went and presented it. Somehow, I think we won or something, because I just remember we had to go to this place, in the evening outside of school, and it was only our the three of our families, and we had to present what we had done, this timetable thing. And I just remember about, doing our 12 times tables up to 12 and presenting it to people. So I can still remember that. So clearly it's something that's been there for a long time. But I always make a joke and say I didn't like reading. And so therefore that made me not really like English. And so it pushed me to liking numbers. And I just found it easier. Literally one or the other. So I would always do really well in maths. To be fair, I still did well in English as well. I'm speaking English now. I hope it's not that bad. But I just enjoyed the numbers aspect. I'm sure it's more than that. But honestly, for as long as I can remember, I've always been good with it. And I guess I just applied those skills to my personal finances, and it works for me. But beyond that, what actually happened was when I was at uni, I studied business economics, and because it's a business degree, they make you do all of the aspects of business, as you can imagine, and economics. And in the first year, they made us do financial accounting, which I hated. And that was the kind of accounting that I was like, what's the point of looking at someone's accounts at the end of the year when they spent all the money, it's all done and dusted, like what is the solution? But then in the second year, they made us do management accounting as a compulsory module, and that was when I was like, this is what I'm talking about. So it was managing finances during the year. So I'm a management accountant, and with a management accounting, it differs to financial accounting because it's more about the planning, it's more about working with things before you get to the end, making the plans now that we're in the situation, not waiting to the end to count it, but looking at variances and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to bore you with all the technical terms and everything, but yeah, it's making that difference during the financial year, basically. So yeah,
it's interesting because I did my MBA a couple of years ago, and so I did accounting for business, I did economics and some of the finance, and I absolutely hated every minute of it, but one of the most valuable things that I've ever done, and really helps me understand, for other people, not necessarily for me, how to manage finances and to understand stuff. Economics, however, I used to fall asleep in that module. I'm not even going to do. So I'm always intrigued when I meet people like yourself that really love the numbers, because I have a quite specific aversion to it. But I think that doing the MBA helped to kind of pique my interest in it. So understanding the importance and the value of it. So you said you did that at university. Then what was the next step after you graduated then?
So when I did the management accounting module, as I said, and I was like, yes, this is it. I found what it is. I'm going to go and do something related to this module in particular. I actually applied for a 1-year placement. So, there are some degrees where you can take a year out. So I took a year out and I worked in one of the government organizations in one of their their finance business partnering team, obviously as a finance assistant at that time. And so that really helped me because there I learned so much. They liked me, they kept me on. So I continued working in my final year. And when I finished, when I graduated, they actually offered me a permanent job at a higher level, at a graduate position. And the government organization has a scheme that basically allows you or enables you to be to become qualified as an accountant. I joined that, and they began, I then began working and studying. So I did that for 3 years and became qualified whilst I was working after university. And then, the rest is history.
Yeah, awesome. So you obviously, you said you was offering assistance to friends and family. Then you decided to set up a business. How much prep did you do? Because I know for me, when I started my first business, there was no prep. We went and registered for business. We're in business. Yay, like, let's go. Didn't have a clue what we were doing.
Yeah.
Did you take my approach, or did you take the proper approach and do some market research and put together a plan?
I'll be honest, I did not do explicit market research. My market research was the people who were coming and pestering me and saying, I need you to help me, I need you to help me. I guess in a way it was just formalizing what was already there. And so I always say, me and my husband, we joke around because I say that even if you woke me up in the middle of the night and asked me to do some numbers, I would probably do them the same way every single time, because that's just how my brain works. But rather than taking that approach and every time someone new comes, I would start from scratch. In terms of doing the business, I looked for ways that I could copy paste, quote and unquote, make it more of a system and make it have consistent terms that would help, that would bring everything together for customers. So for example, one of the main things I talk about in terms of managing your money is the categorization, i.e. your flexible expenditure, your semi-fixed expenditure, and your fixed expenditure. So I began to think in a way of, you know, as a business, basically, you wouldn't, if you go to McDonald's, it's not called a Big Mac in one place and an Orange Mac in the next place. You know, there's consistent terms. So I started to think about it in that way. When I officially launched, obviously it was not like customers were flowing in all on the same day. So it has been, you know, a work in progress. As I talk to people, as I encounter people, and come across different scenarios, I've been able to refine what I had put in place at the beginning. So it's a bit of both. I wouldn't say, like I say, that I did extensive research, but I did think about it from a business point of view. You know, obviously, what's it going to be called, the themes, the logo, all of that kind of stuff, the website, etc. But it has definitely been probably something that has grown over time to what it is now, and I'm sure, you know, is going to be even more than what it is now as we continue over the years.
Amen to that. I was clapping. I was clapping because it's very rare that I hear anybody say that they started and was focusing on the systems and automation or automation at the beginning. And this is something with the consultancy and the kind of business advisory stuff that I do, something that I always bang on about. Well, number one is managing your finances effectively, but also making sure that you've got systems and processes in place, and that you look at ways to automate certain areas of the business so that you can offer consistent quality, and to make life easier for you. Because obviously, if you're just copy and pasting certain things, you're not going to have to be starting from scratch every single time, which means you've got time to do other things and improve the business in other ways. So yeah, I applaud you for actually starting at that point, because I've met so many business owners.
Let me not blow my trumpet too much. So I didn't completely do, you know, the automation, you know, straight from scratch. But yes, I did think about the copy paste type thing. But some of the process was still a little bit manual, which again, like I say, because it's been a work in progress, I have then been able to automate them a bit more, you know, over time as well.
No, don't detract. Like, even if you did 10%, that's 10% more than the average. Because as I said, I come into contact with business owners that are years deep into this and don't have one system or process map to say how their business is going to operate. So you're already ahead of the curve there, for sure. And what would you say was the hardest kind of thing about going it alone and embarking on kind of this business ownership thing? What was the hardest thing, and what was the scariest thing?
I think the hardest thing is probably just the fear, overcoming self-doubt, because you just think to yourself, you know, oh my God, I'm going to have to put myself out there and actually like tell people that I want them to pay me for a service and present myself as some kind of expert. You know, you just think to yourself, you're not an expert. You know, you start self-doubting, or you start thinking about all the ways that you're not good, and not necessarily focusing on the ways that you are good. So I think that was probably one of the biggest things, just knowing that I had to, because it's different when your friends and family are coming up to you because they know and they want your advice, as opposed to you being the one to go to somebody else and say, hi, I offer this service, I think you need me. Those are two different things. And I think the bit I would say I probably thought that I hated the most was more the silly part of it. I don't like salesmen, I don't like sales, typical, you know, the typical sales, you know, sales type of approach, but actually having to change my mindset and understand that actually no, what you have is of value and can help the next person. So it's not you trying to sell them something that they don't need. If they are struggling and they need it, then actually you're helping them as opposed to selling to them, if that makes sense. And so yeah, I guess that was a bit of a challenge, having to change my mindset. And then the other difficult thing was the whole recording, doing videos. I'm good with talking to people one-on-one, face-to-face. I can talk to a large crowd of people. But sometimes, well, in the early days, I would sit in front of the camera and all of a sudden I would just be so tense. I'd be so frozen, literally. It was terrible. And I just thought, oh my God, I don't like this part. This is not what I signed up for. I signed up to help people. I signed up to do the numbers. This is beyond me. Learning social media, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all these things. I'm just like, honestly, this is a lot of things.
Yeah, and I think that's the can be the overwhelming thing at the start of the entrepreneur journey. There's so much things that you have to manage and juggle, and so many different hats that you have to wear within a business that you wouldn't ever need to do in any sort of job, really. And I think that sometimes we underestimate, and we don't necessarily congratulate ourselves enough for all of the different kind of things that we achieve simply by going it alone. For sure. In terms of the kind of self-doubt, and you say you had to change your mindset. How did you do that? Like, did you have a specific thing that you did, or did it just happen naturally as you started to get more clients?
So what I think happened, number one, I have amazing people around me who were obviously encouraging me, pushing me along the way. My husband being number one of those people, very good friends as well, who would applaud, every time I put a post out or did a video or whatever, that would encourage me along the way. So that helped. And then, of course, yes, as more people begin to approach you, as you realize that you really are answering people's questions, as you get invited to speak here and invited to speak there, it begins to, almost, as it has a snowball effect and more things start happening, you start believing in yourself more. Because I think that's natural, because you start to realize, well, if I was that bad, I guess people wouldn't be calling me, would they? Or, they wouldn't be approaching me, or they wouldn't be willing to pay for my services. And also getting feedback from customers as well. Of course, there would be areas of improvement, but there would also be, great areas to say, thank you so much, I couldn't have done this without you, that kind of stuff. And so that really helped along the way to change the mindset naturally without trying to force it. No, there is no secret code or whatever to, break the, the negative mindset or cycle or whatever. Just persistence as well. When I would see that, even without maybe a big following, or even with just a simple phrase, somebody has been touched by it, or somebody has been positively impacted by it, it would really boost my confidence and encourage me to just keep on going, even if it's just for one person, keep on going.
Or as I say here, keep pushing.
Exactly.
So one of the things that you hear a lot in the media, and it's actually something that I did for my dissertation research, which spurned this whole female entrepreneur stories kind of campaign and series, is the idea of the lack of role models or visible role models. And if we look at two different groups, for ethnic minorities who want to start business, I hate the term ethnic minorities, but
I know
standard terminology, and for women. Now, obviously, you're a Black woman. Who did you look around and see in your kind of network, or even within the media, that inspired you or motivated you to want to kind of take this route into entrepreneurship, if anyone?
And that's the thing. I think, if I'm honest, I didn't necessarily see anyone explicitly that I felt like I was following. It was less about other people and more about what I had to offer. If there was somebody, do I think that would have pushed me or encouraged me a bit more? Maybe, I'm not sure. But no, I wouldn't say that I explicitly had a role model. What I did have was a good circle of friends and family that I was able to run my ideas by, and able to seek, opinions from, do you think this will work? Do you think this won't work, etc. I had one friend who, I wouldn't say she was into business. She was probably more into ministry, but she had a large following. And she was a kind of already, doing the whole YouTube, Instagram type thing. So it was always good to run ideas by her. But it wasn't explicitly what I was doing. It wasn't business per se. So to be fair, I think it's actually since I've launched that I've met more female entrepreneurs and more ethnic minority business owners, going along this journey, even, meeting yourself. I'm sure if I wasn't doing BeniRatio Finances, I definitely wouldn't even have known that you were out there, and stuff like that. So it's actually been more as I've gone along, I've come across people who have then been encouraging, and I've, been able to then learn from and follow.
And this is the thing. I think what I'm trying to obviously do is provide visibility to some of the women in business that are out there that are making moves at different stages of their careers and their journey. But actually, there's so many that you just wouldn't know. And it's in doing this that I'm realizing that there's a lot of women doing amazing things. And obviously, I've seen what you've been doing on social media, which is why I wanted to get you on here. And one of the key things that I've noticed is you seem to do a lot of speaking.
I try.
So I see a lot of videos of you speaking. So For me, I think being able to speak publicly is an essential skill for an entrepreneur, because
Definitely.
it's just a great way to get your brand out there, to spread the message, even if you're not speaking about something specifically to do with your brand. The fact that you're there and introducing yourself as the leader or the owner of the company, you get the associated marketing value. But I know a lot of people that hate the concept or the idea of speaking publicly. Have you always been able to speak publicly, or is it something that you've had to train yourself in doing? And do you have any tips?
Again, unfortunately, I don't have any secret codes to crack the weakness or whatever of public speaking. I have been privileged enough to be someone who has always enjoyed public speaking. And I guess, again, you know, I told you about the story about being 7 years old and standing in front of that big room of parents and doing that presentation or whatever it was that we were doing at the time. I think for me, I've had the benefit of being exposed to large crowds from a younger age, especially growing up in the church and being in the choir and leading the choir. I have, you know, I've long had to talk to adults, you know, people way older than me, way more knowledgeable than me, and be the one at the front with a microphone, whether it be singing or it be just sharing some ideas. And I'm sure, like you say, more recently, you know, with some of the talks that I did over the January period. So it's something that I enjoy. Like I said, I hated reading and I hated writing stories and stuff like that. But I found that I was always good at talking to people. I was good at relating with people, which is why, I said, you know, I don't mind doing the one-on-one. But then when we had to do the videos, I froze then. So even though I was good at talking and relating with people naturally in a crowd, when it came to the recording, I felt a bit stiff. And why did I feel stiff? Because I'm talking to a camera, I'm not talking to a person. And so that was where it started to feel like, you know, this is quite different. And then things didn't flow as much as I wanted them to. So I think that's the area that that I struggled with a little bit more, as opposed to just speaking to people. So for me, I've harnessed that, and what I've done, as opposed where I know that maybe I don't like speaking to the camera on my own as much, what I try to do is make sure that when I am speaking to people into a crowd, that there is someone recording it, because then it flows a lot more easier, and then I can put that out to social media. So you can think of ways to repurpose what you have to meet the audience. In terms of public speaking tips, definitely, whilst yes, I might be good, or I might enjoy speaking, there are definitely things that I do to make sure that when I'm speaking, it goes well. I be prepared, know your stuff. I have only God will say, you know, will be able to tell you how many times, you know, if I have a speaking engagement in the morning, I probably go to bed at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. I might just have 2 hours, 3 hours sleep because I'm preparing. You can't afford, no matter how great you think you are, you still need to prepare. But what I found that I'll rather go to an event with 2 hours of sleep being well prepared and it will flow well, than go to bed at 10, 9 o'clock, whatever, 11 o'clock, and get loads of sleep, but I haven't got my thoughts in order. When I've prepared and I always prepare, when I prepare, the speaking flows a lot more, because it's in your head, it's in you, and so it can come out easily. It's the whole thing about garbage in, garbage out. If you put nothing in, you'll get nothing out. As much as you might be an expert in your field, if you haven't prepared for a specific audience, if you haven't prepared for a specific occasion, you might find yourself fumbling or stumbling or going off point. So, you know, always having the center of what you're trying to speak about in the back of your mind. Knowing your audience. So I've had the privilege of speaking to people that are way older than me. I've had the privilege of speaking to young people, teenagers, speaking to people my age, speaking to men, speaking to women. All of the audiences are different. And when you're going to speak to a crowd, you need to know where they're at, where they're coming from, so that the examples that you use are relevant to them, and it helps them to engage. Another thing you can do as well for public speaking, especially at the beginning of the session that you're doing, a little secret of mine, I guess it might be a little bit of a hack, is engage the audience.
That's what I
when
do.
when you engage the audience, it detracts from yourself.
Yes.
So rather than having 300 people looking at you, ask a question and give the microphone to them and let everyone look at that person for a minute whilst you calm your nerves.
Yeah, so I was doing a speaking engagement, I think it was last year, and I was really, really nervous because it was young people. And I'm used to speaking to business people and business women, but younger people. So yeah, like I feel like I'm not that close to being young anymore to feel like I'm relevant. And it was inner city young people, and I'm like, they're going to be saying, who is this woman and what's she on about? She don't know. And I remember standing up and feeling so nervous, the most nervous I felt.
Yeah.
And I was like, just get them to do something. So my mantra is think big, take action, keep pushing. So I was like, everybody stand up, repeat after me. And then they started doing it. And as you said, I could feel myself calming down. And then I just launched into it and I was fine. Yeah. So actually, I've started to do that. Yeah. I'm not even when I'm not nervous, just because actually it's quite good for social media. And it's I've got loads of people on social media at the different events that I've spoken at saying think big, take action. Yeah. So that definitely. Yeah. So moving on to looking at a little bit more around finance. So I work with lots of small business owners, and one of the things that I always find is that number one, they generally don't have a clue about what's going on financially with their business. And number two, they have an extreme aversion to dealing with the finances. In your experience, what is kind of some of the key, I suppose, mindset shifts that need to take place, and how would you recommend? This might be a really wordy question. Let me try and make it less wordy. How would you suggest that small business owners get more comfortable and confident with dealing with numbers? That's less wordy.
Yeah. So I think the truth is you have to accept what you know and what you're good at, and accept what you are not good at and what you need help with. One of the things I always say, it's if you need help, get help. When you're sick, you go to the doctor. When you're hungry, you go to buy food. It's no different. I think because of the age that we live in, especially with social media and all of that, you can be your own video editor, you can be your own marketer, you can be your own this, your own that. But finances is something that, if I'm honest, yes, you can learn it, but the truth is, if it is difficult for you, get help, basically. Which is, for example, one of the reasons why I do the small business accounting bit, because I know that for some people, it just isn't their natural way of thinking. Likewise, for example, I say I'm not that creative in terms of decorative style, but for some people, they can walk into a room and, do the interior decoration from their head, without even touching a thing, So if I wanted to decorate my house, I would not attempt to try and do it by myself. I'd get help, So, and how much more so with something as important as finances. At the end of the day, whether we like it or not, as much as we have passions and desires, if we are in business, we are there to make money. Yes, we want to help people along the way, but you're not going to help other people at the expense of of your own family or at the expense of yourself. You're not going to you cannot feed someone when you have not eaten. So the whole point of business is to make money, right? So the finances, we need to look at it from that point of view. You're not a charity. You are not getting donations from people to run your business. Everything that you are doing is coming from somewhere. And so therefore there has to be that resource. And so when we start seeing it from that point of view, we'll put it on the front burner. As I said, I'm an accountant. I've worked for many big organizations. I'm used to being the only one in the room trying to tell everybody, we need to think about the cost about this. We need to think about the financial implications. We need to think about how much money we have or how much money we don't have, whether we like it or not. How much money we have will determine how far we can go. And so, I would say seek professional advice where you need it. There are also free tools out there. Google is your friend. I think I saw someone put that on their status recently. Google is your friend. There's a lot of free things out there. If you're not confident, you need help, you need guidance, look it up. Get professional advice from your circle, outside of your circle, online. Find someone that you think you can trust, because finances is a thing about trust as well. When I speak to individuals, they're opening up their whole life to me. They're opening up, how much they earn, how much they spend, how much debt they're in, and if you can't do that with somebody that you don't trust or you think that is going to, share the information, with the whole world or whatever. So find somebody that you trust and that you can relate with. There are, again, a lot of companies out there, but if you feel that you can't relate with them, which is one of the areas that I try to sell myself as being relatable, because anybody can go onto QuickBooks or go onto Xero or whatever and do put the numbers in themselves. But the truth is, it's a computer. Sometimes you just want to ask a normal question to a human being who understands you, understands where you're at, and can give you an answer in language that you can understand, without the jargon. So find somebody that you can trust, a relatable person that you can build up a relationship with, and that can help you. Be open about what you're good at, what you're not good at, and be willing to learn, basically. I think that's the most important thing. And think about the bigger picture. If you continue to not earn money, or if you continue to mismanage your money, or you continue to not do your tax returns or whatever, where will that lead you? When you think about that bigger picture and the fact that you don't want to be having HMRC chase you down, or Companies House, you don't want to not have food to feed your family or yourself, as a matter of fact, I would like to think that would push you to put the numbers first, basically.
Yeah. It's really interesting because so many people that I've worked with that the exact same thing that you said, I've said to them, like, do you not want to get fed? Is this a charity? What is it that you're doing? Are you not scared of HMRC? And there's still just this kind of blasé attitude, like, but I've got this to do, I need to run the business. There's no business if there's no financial management. And I think that's something that more business owners really need to wise up to and get serious about. That if your outgoings are more than your incoming and you don't even know, there's a huge problem. And a lot of the time, if I ask, they don't actually know.
They don't know, and that's the thing. And I say this, people come to me sometimes, for example, especially businesses, and some of them haven't registered, even their company as a limited liability, but you're selling products, you're online, you're receiving customer money from people. I say to them, especially when you have children, I say, that if something happens and someone sues your company for maybe, the product, whatever goes wrong, that the liability can affect your family home. It can affect what your children are sleeping on, the house that your children are in. And so I say to people, it's not just about looking professional, it's actually a protection for yourself. I would hate to hear that someone is selling product to somebody for whatever reason, someone takes them to court, and then all of a sudden the company are, trying to go for their personal belongings. You're not a charity, so you have to protect yourself. And likewise as well, I will have people who will have said, they've registered their business, they want accountancy services, but it's not really that important yet, blah, blah, blah. But then I always say to them, at the end of the day, you can either pay me now or pay me later, because, I know that HMRC will send you a letter. I know that Companies House will send you a letter. They will not play when it comes to collecting their money. So why should you play about getting the money to be able to pay them? And I say to people as well that if you pay me now and we do it together, it's easier than when you come to me in 12 months' time and you're like, hi, Benedicta, I just got this letter, please can you help me? Because then it becomes an express service, and I now need to go through whatever's been going on in the last 12 months and help you quickly. Then you have to even pay more than what you would have paid at the beginning, and I think sometimes you need to also scare people into doing the right thing when love won't work, I guess.
Well, yeah, I remember when I was running my first business, I was totally terrified by the prospect of HMRC coming and calling me off to jail. And I wasn't doing anything illegal. I was always being on board, but just because I was so fearful of it, I made sure I had my accountant, I had someone coming doing the bookkeeping for me. I would check it every month. And I still got caught out because one of my first accountants was telling me to pay a specific amount to HMRC, but telling me like maybe £200 or £300 less a month. And then I got a letter on the HMRC owing £3,500. So that was even with me doing what I thought was due diligence. I still got caught out. So now imagine if I wasn't even checking anything.
You didn't.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I always stress the importance of, as you said, if you if your tooth fell out, you wouldn't try and put it back in yourself. You put because the dentist is a professional. And I think one of the problems is, like you said, when you're running a small business, because you're doing so many things, you think you can do everything, but actually, there's certain things that you need a trained educated professional, and finances is definitely one of those things. Sure. So moving on to kind of more around your ministry, how important has your faith been in your entrepreneurial journey? What kind of impact has it had on the direction that you've taken? And more importantly than that, I know that there can be often this challenge amongst Christians of profit making and how that I'm being so inarticulate. How do you negotiate the difference between making a profit because you want to make a profit to make money, and also being a Christian and therefore not trying to like make money and be exploitative? Do the two things conflict?
So there is no part in the Bible that says thou shalt not make profit. so that's just a myth and a lie. Yes, don't get me wrong, the church and Christians, we're all about helping people. We're all about, do unto your neighbor as you would want done to you, help the less privileged, and all of that good stuff there. That's important. But like I said earlier, you cannot give what you don't have. I can't give to charity if I don't earn money in the first place. So it's not a crime to have a profit-making business or whatever. Woman on Purpose on its own is not about making profit. So definitely it's not about selling things so that I can become a millionaire or something like that. And so I guess that's where it's key for as a business owner or as a ministry owner to know where you draw the lines. So for example, even with a church has a building, it has to pay electricity to EDF or Southern Energy or whoever that is. We have to, pay for the chairs or the actual building that a church is in. That comes from somewhere, so you can't afford to say that the church will not collect an offering, for example, or the church will not do whatever, because there are things that have to be paid for, just like in anybody's house. And so I personally have no challenges about understanding the differences and understanding the need to be able to make profit from people. Of course, I do not believe in exploitation of people. You should charge, an amount that is due. And to be fair, as a Christian, I won't lie, I probably give a lot more than the price I charge, just because it's in my nature, to be a giving person and want to help, but I am also not foolish. I understand that I have bills to pay, and if I can't eat, I can't even help you. Or if I don't have a roof over my head, I can't help you. So, of what gain would it be for both of us to be in a helpless position? So with the ministry, like I say, I acknowledge that is not about profit. That is just about helping, and I do that off, my own back. But I thank God that I have a business, and I also have, at the moment, I'm employed, so I have money to be able to do that. If I didn't, then I wouldn't be able to be a help. So yeah.
How do you balance it all? How do I
balance? Oh, that is probably the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is the time. There are only so many hours in the day, as we all know, and a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of early mornings, a lot of late nights, a lot of days where maybe you don't sleep as much, but that's because of where I'm at. I acknowledge that at the moment I'm doing 3 different things. So I have my normal job, I have the business, I have the ministry, and I have my family actually. So I have 4 things, I acknowledge that, and it's where I'm at now, but I have plans to change that. So this is a short-term thing. I do not plan to continue having, very little sleep or whatever for the next 50, 80 years of my life. It's a short-term pain for the long-term gain. And so I acknowledge that as well. And at the same time, I also don't beat myself up when I can't, meet a deadline that I've set myself. I would love to be able to post every single day, do a video every day, and give a word of encouragement every single day. But I'm only one person, and so I give myself a break, basically. And when I say a break, I don't mean as in just not doing anything, but I acknowledge, today we can't do all of these things, so which one can we do? And I applaud myself for the one that I do, and then, leave the rest for the next day and try to plan, basically. Try to have some things on autopilot. So try to plan, for example, I can plan for the whole of BeniRatio for this month. And then I can have that going on in the background whilst I'm being more active and intentional and present about Woman on Purpose, you know, and then vice versa. I might have been a Woman on Purpose on autopilot for a month and then being more, you know, doing new things with BeniRatio. So just trying to balance, trying to plan, trying to acknowledge what's feasible and what's not feasible. My husband says I give myself too many deadlines and too many things to do in one day. So he's also a good person to say, you can't do all of this. Let's be realistic. What can you do? So that helps as well.
And for anybody watching or listening, Trello is life. I don't know if you use Trello, but I'm balancing a lot of different things as well. So I do these interviews. I have my consultancy. I also have a contractor. I also have a family. And the only way I'm able to juggle is by using Trello. And I'm not being endorsed by them, although I feel like by now they should sponsor me. Might go and approach. But listing everything I need to achieve and having Trello send me the reminders and that kind of thing is invaluable to me. So I always recommend everyone to use Trello, and it's free. You can have it on your phone, your laptop, your tablet. It's awesome. Changed my life personally. So moving towards kind of the closing questions, what would you say has been your proudest moment thus far, other than just the fact that you've stepped out on faith and you've done all these things, because you should definitely pat yourself on the back for that. But is there one pivotal moment in this journey that you said, wow, like I smashed that?
To be fair, honestly, I do celebrate the little wins. What might seem like, oh, okay, someone else, for me is major. So for example, even just doing like the first YouTube video for me, especially on Woman on Purpose, that was like major. The video was not that great. It was not perfect. It was what it was. But do you know what? I got it done. And I guess for me also, all the skills, I am by no means an expert in video recording or video editing or whatever. But I have people coming up to me asking me for advice. I'm like, okay, clearly you've done something right. If these people feel like they can trust you enough to ask you how you do it, and being able to give advice. So it's not really a big wow moment, but it is within myself like, wow, you know, you've 2-3 years ago, you didn't know how to do any of these things. No one would have ever come to ask you about how to do this or how to do that. But now somehow you're in a position whereby you're able to offer not just the advice that you're giving from a business point of view or from Woman on Purpose, the message, but also from the extra bits that you've had to learn and come on board with. So I guess for me, that's been a very pivotal moment when I have, you know, people that I think are older than me, wiser than me, gone ahead of me, coming to ask me, right, okay, how do we do this and how do we do that?
Awesome. What are your aspirations for BeniRatio Finances and for Women on Purpose? Where do you see both of them going in the future? What's the plan?
So I think for BeniRatio Finances, the aim for me is in the long run to do a lot more business advisory, a lot more business help. So don't get me wrong, I love working with the individuals. I'm so passionate about it and I love to just help individuals, but I think from a business point of view and growing and being more sustainable in the long run, the business to business market is one that I'd really like to explore a lot more and grow and push a lot more, because I haven't really pushed that as much, which is why I talked about the whole trying to have the personal finance element on autopilot and automate all of that so that flows and helps and works on its own, even without me having to give it as much attention. And then now pushing to grow the business aspect, because again, in the 21st century, there are so many entrepreneurs out there, so many budding, people that want to do things, but just need help on the finance aspect. So I'd love to be there for all these new generation businesses and, helping them from that point of view. And then for Women on Purpose, so we are hoping to have our first retreat this year, where we're going to have a group of women come together and do what women do, right? Talk, share, eat, laugh, pray, joke, share the word, all of that kind of stuff. So that's going to be very major for us because it is the first of our events. I've been doing a lot of videos and sharing. But yeah, being able to bring women together in the room is where we're going with it. And I hope to be able to do, more of those kind of things again in the future with the ministry and impact as many lives as possible, but at the same time still have that personal, intimate touch. So yeah.
Wishing you best with that. What would you say has been the biggest lesson? What has been the kind of key takeaway from your journey so far?
The biggest lesson is to be patient. I'm a go-getter. I like things now. I like things on tap. If I want it, I'm getting it now. But I have had to learn to be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say. And so, yeah, you want to do all of these things. You want to grow now. You want to go now. But realizing you can't do it all at once. So the lesson of being patient and knowing that the rewards will still come in due time, and just taking your time with it as well. Like there's enjoying the journey, basically enjoying the journey and enjoying the benefits and the fruits that can come even with where you're at whilst looking at the future. I think that's been the biggest lesson.
And it's a good lesson. For me, what's quite challenging is I'm also quite impatient. I want things now. But then also I value rest.
Yeah.
There's always this kind of internal battle, like I'm tired, just rest. But I need this now. Do it.
Yeah.
It's always a battle. And I suppose recognizing that actually, it's not going to happen immediately. And if you do rest for 20 minutes and don't do that specific thing, it's not really going to make that much of a difference in the group.
Yeah.
So a lesson that I'm trying to learn too. I always say to my clients, do as I say, not as I do. It's very important. So 3 pieces of advice that you would give to a woman that is on the early stages of her journey. She's about to register her business, or she's just registered her business. What 3 pieces of advice would you give to her?
So just going off the last point, I guess the first one would be the patience, being patient, going for it, definitely doing the work, doing what you need to do, but at the same time being patient and knowing that it's going to take time to build what you want to build would be the first piece of advice. The second would be to be open to learning. So like I said, I had to learn, and I'm sure you've been the same, having to learn so many other things that you never thought you were going to learn. For example, you just want to make dresses, and then you realize you need to learn how to take pictures of the dresses. You need to learn how to put them on sale online, for example, and all of that kind of stuff. Be open to learning. There's so much that you need to learn as an entrepreneur that goes beyond the product and the service that you are selling. So yeah, be open and willing to learning. You will definitely be stretched, but it's good for you. And also the third one would be about networking and collaborating. I have had the opportunity to meet so many people, even in just a short space of time. And, things have grown from there. One thing leads to another, one person connects you with another person, and it helps the business, it helps everything to grow and to expand. So again, being open to networking. I used to hear the word networking and literally roll my eyes and just be thinking, what is that? But, you don't need to think of it in the typical sense of networking, but, just getting to know people. Don't be shy about saying what you do. Don't be shy about selling yourself. If you don't sell yourself, who else will? Everybody else is trying to sell themselves. So don't be shy about that. You can't afford to open up a shop and not have a sign outside your window. That doesn't make sense. If you open up a shop, you would put a sign outside and you want people to know that you're here. So networking is kind of like doing that, whereby you're meeting new people. And it's not about, I just want to push what I have down your throat, but actually meeting people that can actually help you as well. It's a collaboration. It's a bit of give and take, seeing how you can be of service to other people genuinely, and obviously how they can be of service to you without using people, of course. So yeah, I think those are the 3 things. Be patient, be willing to learn, and go out there and network, meet new people, and yeah, all of that will help.
Fabulous. invaluable advice. If people want to find out more about you, about your business, about the ministry, what platforms are you on? Where can they go?
So for BeniRatio Finances on Instagram and on Facebook and on Twitter, BeniRatio Finances, and the website as well, BeniRatioFinances.com. And for Woman on Purpose, we are on Instagram and YouTube. Oh, BeniRatio Finances on YouTube as well. Not too many videos on there, but yeah, on YouTube too. For Women on Purpose, it's predominantly Instagram and YouTube, and the handle is Benedicta_WOP, Benedicta_WOP, and you can see all the videos and messages that I put out on there.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for bearing with me. We had a few technical challenges behind the scene, but it's all sorted. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing your kind of journey and your advice. Very much appreciated. And thank you guys for watching, for listening, and for getting involved in the whole She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur stories. As usual, if there's anything that's been said in this interview that has really resonated with you, that has taught you something, has made you think about something differently, please make sure that you write a comment. Please make sure that you click that like button and you share with people in your network, so we can get more followers, because I think we're having some really interesting and really important conversations, and want to spread the word. So like, comment, share, and if you haven't already done so, as I always say, subscribe and follow. And make sure you tune in next week, GMT, 8 p.m. on Sunday for another She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur story. Thank you. And thank you again, Benedicta.
Thank you for having me.